What if I told you that your struggle with lust, your silent war with hidden urges, isn't weakness at all? What if it is the battlefield that heaven chose for you to discover your real strength? Every restless night, every inner conflict you thought was shame, what if it was actually training? Not just for your body, not even just for your soul, but for your rise in spiritual power. You've been told that self-control is about discipline, about gritting your teeth and pushing through. But no, this is not simply about control. It is about purpose. It is about the sacred fire that heaven planted in you before you even knew your own name. When you resist temptation, you are not merely avoiding sin. You are unlocking a key of authority that the world cannot see, but the spirit realm cannot ignore. This war is not about suppression. It is about transformation. When you say no to the craving that tries to chain you down, you are saying yes to the version of yourself that God already saw from the beginning. You are saying yes to the mission that was whispered into your bones before you even entered this world. And if you're watching this right now, something inside you already knows. You were never designed to be ordinary. That strange feeling of being out of place in the crowd, the quiet pull in your chest that makes you restless when others seem satisfied. That is heaven's signature on your life. That is the evidence you are chosen. And do not be mistaken. Lust tries so violently to chain you because it knows heaven is calling you higher. Now listen closely. 90 days without sex, 90 days without indulgence, 90 days without feeding the beast of lust is not just a detox. It is a rebirth, a consecration, a cleansing of your vessel so that it can finally carry something fierce, something eternal, something that cannot be shaken by the storms of this world. Think of Jesus in the wilderness, 40 days without bread, without water, without comfort. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The wilderness stripped him so that when he returned, he walked with authority that no Pharisee, no demon, no kingdom of darkness could resist. In the same way, your abstinence, your separation, your hidden war is not punishment. It is your wilderness season. It is the forge where heaven is tempering you into a weapon. And here's the mystery. When you step into this kind of consecration, everything begins to change in ways you cannot explain. It starts subtle. One morning you wake up and the fog in your mind feels lighter. You walk into a room and people glance at you differently. They may not know why, but your eyes anchor them. Your presence weighs differently because you are no longer leaking your power in shadows. You are concentrating it like sacred oil in a lamp. Your body changes too, though not in the way the world expects. Your posture steadies. Your voice deepens, not because you tried to change it, but because your essence is flowing back into you. The invisible strength that used to drip away like water in sand now gathers inside you like a reservoir. You begin to walk slower, heavier, more deliberate. Not sluggish, but rooted, as if every step carries meaning. You must understand this. Your seed is not just biology. It is legacy. It is intelligence. It is spiritual inheritance. It is the container of your life force, the breath of God's design, the story of your bloodline. Every careless release without purpose is not just pleasure wasted. It is destiny drained. But when you hold it, when you guard it, when you lift it up as an offering, instead of spilling it into the void, your nervous system recalibrates. Your mind grows still. Your spirit begins to glow, not like the glow of a light bulb, but like the gravity of a planet, an invisible weight that bends the atmosphere around you. People will notice. They may not know why, but they will treat you differently. Strangers will pause before speaking. Your words will seem to carry more influence, even when spoken softly. You won't need to announce yourself because your presence announces you. Why? Because your aura, your spiritual field, is no longer fractured by lust. It is whole, it is magnetic, it is commanding. Women will sense it, men will respect it, but most will never understand it. Because this energy doesn't perform, it doesn't beg for validation, it doesn't try to impress. It simply is. It exists in quiet confidence, like a lion that doesn't need to roar to prove it is king. And in that stillness, something even greater awakens: memory. You begin to remember who you truly are, not the version the world mocked, not the mask you wore to survive, but the original design that heaven spoke into existence. The version of you that was always meant to walk with authority, but couldn't, because the fuel kept leaking away. This is why the war against lust feels so fierce, because it isn't just about your body, it is about your identity. Every moment you resist, you aren't just fighting urges, you are recovering fragments of your true self. You are pulling back the crown the enemy tried to steal. But understand, this path is not comfortable. Urges will rise like fire in your bones. Your body will rebel. Your mind will scream for escape. Because what you are doing is rare, it is dangerous, it is revolutionary. You are interrupting a system designed to keep you dependent, distracted, and spiritually sedated. But if you endure, if you hold your ground in the wilderness, you will feel a shift. The temptation will begin to fade, and the power will begin to take over. And when that day comes, you won't need to prove anything. You won't need to shout your identity. Your energy will speak for you, and trust me, it will speak louder than your words ever could. But this is only the beginning, because once your power rises, so do the tests. And the next phase, the one most chosen men fail, is not an attack from the outside, but from within. Your seed is not just biology. It is not simply fluid, cells, or genetics. It is the container of destiny, a sacred vessel of intelligence, of memory, of authority, and of command. Every careless release, every empty spilling into the void is not just an act of momentary indulgence. It is the handing away of fragments of your kingdom. Each time, a piece of your inheritance drifts into the dark, leaving you emptier than before. But when you hold it, when you rise above the craving, when you consecrate what the world throws away, something begins to shift. Your nervous system recalibrates. Your mind grows still, like a lake after a storm. The restlessness quiets, the static fades. And then your spirit begins to hum with electricity. Subtle at first, but undeniable. It starts in your body. Your eyes sharpen like twin anchors that no longer scatter in distraction. Your voice deepens, steady with an authority you didn't practice, but inherited. Your steps slow down, not out of laziness, but with a deliberate weight, as if heaven itself measures your pace. People see it, but cannot name it. They feel the pull of an invisible gravity that circles you, as though an unseen mantle rests on your shoulders. This gravity is not imagined. It is the power of your seed turned inward instead of wasted outward. And this is why ancient men of God, saints, prophets, monks, and even warriors across cultures practiced restraint, not to punish themselves, but to awaken a strength the world could not comprehend. The Nazarites in Scripture vowed to consecrate themselves. Samson's power tied to his vow, Daniel's clarity born from discipline, John the Baptist's voice echoing from the wilderness. Even outside the pages of Scripture, sages and monks across civilizations knew the retention of seed was not weakness. It was a hidden weapon. Think of it like a forge. Every time you resist, you are adding coal to the fire. Every day of retention is another hammer strike shaping steel. Until one morning you realize you are no longer brittle, no longer fragile, no longer a reed shaking in the wind. You are a pillar forged by invisible fire. Science whispers hints of this mystery. The body begins to redirect energy when release is withheld. Dopamine resets, attention sharpens, testosterone rises, and even brain patterns begin to change. But what science cannot capture is the spiritual alchemy, the way God takes what was once wasted in darkness and converts it into fuel for vision, for authority, for discernment. You stop leaking your inheritance and start glowing with unexplainable weight. And here is where it becomes undeniable. Strangers respond differently to you. Women sense it in ways they cannot explain. Men treat you with respect they cannot justify. Environments adjust themselves when you walk in, not because you demanded it, but because your essence has become whole, commanding, magnetic. Your aura is no longer fractured. It is complete, and completion is power. When the vessel is no longer cracked, the oil of heaven finally fills it without leaking away. When your seed remains inside you, when it is guarded like sacred oil in a temple lamp, you burn with a steady flame, not a fire that sputters and dies, but a flame that lights rooms without words. This is why lust tries so hard to enslave men, not because it is fun, but because it is lethal to the enemy if you ever rise above it. Because if even one chosen man learns to guard his vessel, to channel his seed into strength, instead of scattering it in shadows, he becomes unstoppable. A walking contradiction, violent in spirit yet peaceful in presence, magnetic without trying, silent yet commanding. And let me tell you something deeper. When you master your seed, when you consecrate it, when you rise above the cravings, you begin to remember not just who you are, but whose you are. You remember that heaven whispered you into existence, that your DNA is not random, that your bloodline carries fire, that your lineage is waiting to be redeemed through you. Because your seed carries more than your body. It carries future nations. It carries legacies unborn. It carries names you do not yet know, but heaven has already recorded. And every time you hold it in reverence instead of wasting it in shadows, you are protecting the scroll of destiny written within you. This is the invisible power of seed, the mystery that turns ordinary men into chosen vessels, the forgotten weapon that builds thrones not in castles, but in souls. But here's the warning. Once your aura begins to radiate, once your seed transforms into authority, the war will intensify. Temptations won't just come from within, they will come from without, because the system designed to keep you drained cannot afford for you to rise. And the next battle you face will not just be about your urges, but about the fog that has clouded the minds of men for generations. There's a reason so many men today feel lost, even the strong ones, even the ones who seem successful on the outside. It's not laziness, it's not lack of potential, it's something far more subtle, far more dangerous. They are blinded. Their vision is covered by an invisible fog, a smoke that clings to the mind like ashes after a sacred fire has been smothered. And what causes this fog? Lust. Not just the act itself, but the constant flood of images, cravings, fantasies, and false dopamine that hijacks the brain day after day. It slips in silently, a glance, a scroll, a click. And before you even realize it, your mental bandwidth is gone. Your focus evaporates, your energy fractures. You cannot finish what you start. You cannot hear from God because your mind is tuned to static instead of His frequency. This is not merely about morality. It is about mental warfare. Lust doesn't just touch your body. It rewires your mind. It doesn't just tempt you. It fragments your vision. And when vision is broken, identity is broken. Because without vision, you cannot build, you cannot lead, you cannot even know who you truly are. But the moment you unplug from the cycle, when you cut off the signal that has been feeding your flesh and starving your spirit, something miraculous begins to happen. The fog starts to lift, not all at once, but gradually, like dawn breaking after a long night. Colors appear sharper, time feels slower, almost holy in its pace. Conversations become clearer, deeper, more alive. You start to recognize yourself again, not the fractured version, but the ancient one. The one that existed before distraction drowned you, the one beneath the noise, the one heaven has been waiting for. And then it happens. Ideas begin to flow, not recycled fragments you borrowed from the world, but original blueprints, pure downloads, heavenly visions clothed in clarity, instructions that feel like they were whispered directly from the throne. For the first time in years, you don't just think, you see. You see patterns that once confused you. You connect the dots of your past. The story begins to make sense, and your pain reveals its pattern. This clarity is not just mental, it is spiritual. You begin to see through the veil. Suddenly, people's intentions are transparent. Manipulations are exposed. Traps reveal themselves before they spring. You stop falling for the same cycles because your spirit is awake. You can hear again, not just faint whispers, but a frequency that flows through every decision. This is why clarity is feared, because when a man sees clearly, he becomes dangerous. Not to women, not to other men, but to the system, to the machinery of distraction that depends on your blindness to keep you enslaved. When you break free from lust, you don't just gain focus, you gain foresight, and foresight turns men into seers. In ancient times, seers were not entertainers. They were empire shifters. They didn't just interpret dreams, they shaped destinies. They saw beyond the veil, and kings trembled when they spoke. That same capacity is buried inside you. It has been smothered under years of spiritual noise. But when the fog lifts, when the static breaks, you discover it was never gone, it was only covered. And here is the truth. When your eyes open, you will never see the world the same again. You will look at relationships differently. You will sense the weight of your words. You will even see your own habits as sacred choices, no longer small or meaningless. And that voice inside you, the one you tried to silence since childhood, will rise again. The one that always whispered you were made for more. This time, you won't just hear it, you will believe it. But clarity is costly. Once your eyes open, you can't go back to blindness. You will be convicted about things you used to ignore. You will be unsettled by environments you once enjoyed. You will feel the burden of responsibility pressing against your soul, because sight is a gift, but it is also a call. The question is not if you will see. The question is what you will do once you see, because once clarity comes, the tests deepen. And what you meet in the next phase may require a version of yourself you have never met before, but you are about to. Clarity is a gift, but it is also a burden. When the fog lifts, when you begin to see with eyes unclouded, life cannot remain the same. Because to see is to know, and to know is to carry weight. Heaven does not give vision for entertainment. Heaven gives vision to prepare warriors. This is why so many men who taste clarity run back into blindness, because with clarity comes responsibility. You start noticing things you once ignored. You feel convicted about words you speak, places you enter, people you walk with. The music that once entertained you now feels like poison. The conversations you used to laugh at now sound empty, even dangerous. Once your eyes open, you see too much to pretend you don't. And that is the cost. You cannot unsee, you cannot unknow, you cannot go back to sleep. But here is the secret. This is the mark of a warrior, not the scars on his body, but the scars on his vision. A warrior is not defined by how loudly he roars, but by how much weight he carries silently. Your unseen battles, the nights when no one applauded, the mornings when no one knew you resisted, the tears no one saw, that is where your authority is forged. Heaven takes note of the man who chooses consecration when no one is watching. God is not impressed by charisma, by image, by appearances. Heaven does not measure men the way earth does. Heaven looks for the ones who lay down their flesh in secret. And when God finds such a man, he brands him in the spirit. He gives him weight. Invisible crowns that no hand can place. Silent anointings that no oil can mimic. And hell takes note too. Demons do not fear talent, but they respect consecration. When a man has crucified his weakness, when he has starved the beast inside instead of feeding it, he becomes too costly to attack head-on. The spirit realm recognizes him as marked. His very presence forces strategies to shift. Darkness no longer plays with him, it plans around him. Earth responds as well. People may not know why, but they will lean in when you speak. They will pause when you enter the room. They will listen to your silence as if it carries weight, because it does. Authority is not volume. Authority is not noise. Authority is weight, spiritual mass that bends the atmosphere without permission. And this weight does not come cheaply. It is paid for in secret wars, in lonely decisions, in sacrifices no one applauded. This is why crowns and crosses are inseparable. In the kingdom of heaven, there is no throne without wilderness, no anointing without fire, no authority without sacrifice. Do you remember how David was anointed king long before he wore the crown? He was marked in a hidden field, tending sheep, slaying lions and bears, where no crowd could cheer. His authority wasn't forged in the palace, it was forged in the wilderness. So it is with you. Your hidden battles, your silent victories, your unseen faithfulness, they are your lions and bears. And the mark you carry now will one day be recognized publicly. But here is the warning. Authority is not a trophy. It is not a badge you flaunt. It is a responsibility. If you carry it without reverence, it will crush you. If you chase power without purpose, favor without discipline, the very weight that was meant to protect you will destroy you. That is why this clarity costs so much. Heaven does not hand weapons to children. Heaven waits until you are forged enough to carry them without breaking. So do not despise the fire, do not curse the loneliness, do not regret the tears, because every unseen moment was the forge. Every hidden battle was a hammer strike. Every silence where you chose God over lust was another chain breaking. And now, when you walk into a room, the spirit realm already knows. You are not just a man anymore. You are a vessel. You are marked. You are becoming a warrior who carries fire, unshakable fire. But know this, when your mark becomes visible, so do the tests. And the next test is not just about strength. It is about attraction. Because once your aura radiates, once your presence glows with unshakable calm, the world will not ignore you. And what comes next may look like reward, but it will actually be temptation in disguise. When a man masters his urges, when he guards his seed and consecrates his body, something begins to radiate. It cannot be faked. It cannot be bottled. It cannot be explained by clothes, hairstyles, or charm. It is frequency, the invisible hum of spiritual power flowing through a vessel that is no longer fractured. And suddenly, the world responds. Women notice first, not always with desire but with curiosity. They feel something steady, unbothered, a quiet gravity that sets you apart. In a world where most men are ruled by hunger, a man ruled by purpose is a shock to the system. He doesn't chase, he doesn't stare, he doesn't beg for attention. He observes, he listens, he carries stillness like a sword, and that stillness makes more noise than lust ever could. But here lies the trap. This attraction is not a prize. It is a test. The same spirits that once attacked your phone screen in the dark will now walk into rooms wearing perfume. They know your eyes are no longer weak, so they target your confidence. They whisper, "You've earned this. You deserve a little pleasure now. After all this purity, surely there must be a reward." And if you listen, if you slip, if you treat attraction as confirmation instead of testing, everything you built can crumble in a single moment. Look back through the scriptures. Samson was set apart from birth, a Nazarite with heaven's strength flowing in his hair. But it wasn't the Philistine armies that broke him. It was Delilah, a test disguised as intimacy. Joseph faced the same, Potiphar's wife, relentless in her pursuit. Yet unlike Samson, Joseph fled, and because of his restraint, he carried not just purity, but a nation's destiny on his back. That is the pattern. When your destiny is near, temptation will come dressed as beauty. Not all who are drawn to you are meant for you. Not every hand that reaches for you is a blessing. Some are assignments sent to distract, detour, and dismantle you before you step into your crown. This is why discernment is everything now. Because the more attractive you become in spirit, the more counterfeits will circle. They will not come to lift you, but to test if you can stand. The same attention that feels like honor can, in truth, be a snare. But here's the good news. Holiness has a glow that lust cannot imitate. When you stay steady, when you guard your spirit and refuse to bow, you will not only avoid the trap, you will attract something far rarer: alignment, the right kind of woman, the kind who prays more than she posts, the kind who honors silence instead of fearing it, the kind who sees the fire in your eyes and chooses to fan it, not extinguish it. Understand this clearly. Attraction itself is not evil. It is neutral, like fire. It can warm your home or burn it down. It depends on how you handle it. If you treat it as a crown, it will destroy you. If you treat it as a test, it will refine you. And the man who survives this phase, who walks through the storm of false validation without breaking, becomes more than attractive. He becomes holy, and holiness cannot be faked. Holiness is rare. Holiness is magnetic in a way makeup and status will never be. Holiness is what sets apart kings from prisoners, prophets from impostors, warriors from weak men. So when the whispers come, when the counterfeit embraces smile at you, remember this: they are not rewards, they are checkpoints. And the only way through is reverence, restraint, and relentless focus. Because the man who survives this test doesn't chase what's next. He walks into it steady, unshaken, with fire in his eyes and a sword in his spirit. After 90 days, something inside you doesn't just feel different. It is different. The battles that once consumed you no longer hold the same power. The cravings that haunted you lose their sharpness. You are not the same man who started this journey. You have graduated. You have crossed from survival into alignment. Because abstinence was never just about quitting a habit. It was never about counting days on a calendar. It was about consecration, about becoming clean enough, still enough, strong enough to be entrusted with more. When your vessel is clean, God doesn't simply bless you with peace. He begins to assign you. He entrusts you with weight, with keys, with assignments that require a voice sharpened by silence and a heart tested in fire. You begin to notice the difference everywhere. Opportunities no longer slip past you. They come toward you. You no longer beg to fit into people's lives. You disrupt them simply by showing up. You don't chase doors. Doors open because heaven whispered your name on them. The very atmosphere adjusts when you walk in because your inner current has become too strong to ignore. And here's the deeper truth. Everything you suffered, every tear you shed, every restless night you thought was wasted, none of it was wasted. Heaven was building a foundation with those moments. Each battle was a brick. Each secret victory was mortar. Each scar became scripture written into your body. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. Now your voice carries a weight it never had before. Not because you speak louder, but because you speak from a place most people have never been. Your words do not echo from books or sermons. They flow from scars, from fire, from private wars. And that is why they pierce. That is why people listen. This is what alignment feels like. No longer ruled by impulse, no longer tossed by lust or vanity. Instead, you move with precision, with timing that feels supernatural. You don't chase things. They chase you because heaven has placed a seal upon you. You don't exhaust yourself trying to prove your worth. The Spirit testifies for you. You don't live in chaos. You attract clarity. Alignment is graduation. It is the shift from boyhood into manhood, from soldier into warrior, from believer into vessel. And once you carry it, you realize why the tests were so fierce. Because God wastes nothing. He never allows pain without planting a seed, and the seed of your pain has now blossomed into authority. But understand this: graduation is not the end. It is the beginning of weight. When God gives you alignment, He also gives you responsibility. You now carry not just your own destiny, but echoes of generations, patterns waiting to be broken, futures waiting to be spoken into existence. The world may see only a man, but heaven sees a throne, a vessel, a voice for bloodlines yet unborn. And here is the mystery. The moment you step into alignment, resistance intensifies. Not because you are failing, but because the enemy just received notification that you've been activated. You are no longer living for yourself. You are now an instrument, and instruments change atmospheres. That is why the pressure increases. That is why the weight feels heavier. But that is also the proof you are walking correctly. You are no longer simply surviving. You are aligned. Your steps are ordered. Your life is synchronized with heaven's rhythm. And from this place, every decision matters. Every word carries fire. Every prayer shakes atmospheres, because you have graduated from carrying wounds to carrying weapons, from silence to sound, from pain to purpose. Do not be surprised when resistance grows stronger after alignment. It is not proof of failure. It is proof of activation. The enemy does not waste energy on those who are asleep. He targets those who have awakened. And when you step into alignment, when heaven has branded you as chosen, all of hell is put on alert. Suddenly, life feels heavier. Attacks come sharper. Old temptations try to circle back. Not because you are weak, but because you have become dangerous. You are no longer just a man struggling with urges. You are a vessel carrying fire. You are a carrier of destiny, and the spirit realm knows it. Understand this: you don't just carry your own story now. You carry generations inside you. Bloodlines shift when you speak. Patterns that enslaved your family for decades begin to crack when you pray. Destinies awaken when you step into a room. You are not just living your life, you are rewriting history. And this is why the weight feels so great. Because heaven is not giving you favor to make you comfortable. Heaven is entrusting you with legacy. Your voice now carries the sound of freedom for others. Your choices echo into the future. When you walk in purity, when you stand unshaken, it is not only your soul that wins, it is the unborn sons and daughters, the families, the nations that will rise because you broke the cycle. This is what it means to be chosen. It means your battles are not small. It means your scars are not wasted. It means every tear, every restless night, every lonely decision was laying a foundation for something larger than you. The fire you endured in secret has now become the light others will follow. But remember, this authority is not for pride. It is not a trophy to polish. It is a weight, a mantle, a commission. If you misuse it, it will crush you. But if you carry it with humility, with reverence, with obedience, it will build a legacy that cannot be erased. This is the final awakening, when you realize your war was never just about you. It was about all those connected to you. It was about heaven reclaiming ground through your life. You were not just resisting lust, you were preparing to carry nations. You were not just denying the flesh, you were stepping into kingship, priesthood, prophetic fire. And this is your legacy. Not wealth, not fame, not applause, but alignment. To walk so closely with God that even your silence shakes the atmosphere. To live so purely that generations yet unborn will thank you without ever knowing your name. To finish your race and hear the only words that matter: well done, good and faithful servant. So stand. Guard your vessel. Stay hidden in God. Because you are not ordinary, you are not forgotten, you are chosen, and the crown waiting for you was forged in the very battles you thought would break you. This is your calling, this is your war, this is your crown.